What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Ron, back with another video. If you clicked on this video, you know why you're here. On the road to 25K subs by the end of the year. Let's get it. And if you like the music that you hear, click the link. It's in the description. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it.
But in general, when I do cover women, I am harsh in my critiques. I often cover Madonna, I cover Emily Ratajkowski, and the reason I go after them is because I do believe that these women, for example, Cardi B, are contributing to the corrosion of society. And so this commenter is correct to feel that I am neglecting really all women in a lot of my analyses, and I don't use enough of my platform to talk about women that are providing good examples. And I think that there's an element that, I guess really about our culture that is so disturbing to me, and that I feel that the only way that our culture is going to get back on track is for women to stop believing that they need to rinse themselves of their womanhood and their femininity. So that's one element of it. The other thing is that women in general aren't very nice to each other. It's not just Candace, it's women in general are just not that nice to each other. I always say the movie Mean Girls is kind of real life, you know what I'm saying? And a part of this is biological. There's an underpinning of biology. I've often spoke about a book that I read, which was written by an author named E.O. Wilson, who is a biologist and who basically underpins, he has this thesis that everything that we do in society and the way that we behave in society, you really just have to examine our biology, and you can look to examples in the wild to fully understand why we behave in that manner, right? So why are women a bit cattier with one another than men are, right? Men are kind of, they hang out, they're totally fine, but women are a bit more competitive and a bit more catty. And the argument that he puts forth in this book is that, well, women have to compete, and they have to compete for men. And if you speak about our biology, women have 400 eggs, that's it. We are born with all of the eggs we're ever going to have. So our body is telling us to compete with other women, to find another man, to start a family. Men, on the other hand, can produce as much seed until they're 90, and they are therefore trying to increase their numbers and increase their pack size. So again, biology is what's underpinning a lot of our action. But it's not just that, and I do agree that that is quite legitimate. There is also, I guess I would say almost a social contract that I feel that we women have with one another, where we want to make other women in our image as opposed to just accepting them for who they are. And I spoke a lot about this, particularly as it pertains to Black women especially, that it was very difficult for me growing up. I had all these Black friends in elementary school, then we had to take the state tests, which would decide what classes we were in middle school. And because I performed well on these state tests, my classroom had no Black people in it. So obviously you make friends with whoever's in your classroom. And there was something about me being in a higher classroom, right, by IQ standards, that made these women really resent me, and they were mean to me. I mean, I was in middle school very much bullied by Black women for no reason. I never had any drama, never said anything to them, but I talked about this frequently in the past, but also in my book, I described how for being smart, there was like a crime for being smart. And there was this one girl who used to always kind of like bump my shoulder every time she saw me into the hallway. Intentionally, she'd come all the way across the hallway and she just kind of bump my shoulder just to be mean, just to say like, this isn't cool. And then there was another girl who I spoke about in my book, who I was very much into the Harry Potter books, still am. I think they're awesome books. And this is when they were dropping them all, and we were waiting in line, trying to get our hands on the next book. And I was racing home to read the Harry Potter novel. And I've spoken about how this girl sort of made fun of me in the lunchroom. And I thought she was like the most amazing. I thought she was so pretty. I wanted to be friends with this girl. Her name was Sheena. And how she called me over to the lunch table, and in front of this whole table of Black girls that were in her classroom, made fun of me for not knowing the lyrics to a rap song. And so I think it's really interesting. I consider this comment.
I wanted to stop right here because I'm like, I don't want nobody getting upset, but I'm like, I done let it flow for about 3-4 minutes, because I actually wanted to do a live reaction to this, because this is gonna be kind of long. It's probably about another 5-6 minutes of her talking before I'm gonna stop it, because what she's going over is very, very, very important. Because this is something that I kind of get pushback from detractors, people making diss videos of me. Yeah, King Jules, whatever your name is, I see you, bro. This is what I'm talking about. What you have here is a black educated woman who was treated differently by her own race of women simply because she's smart. Women. Now, if you want to be, let's keep it a buck, bro. Men are far worse when it comes to that. And you're looking at somebody that's speaking from experience. So I don't want to hear that, oh, average man unplug is dumb. Like, boy, you don't know me from a can of paint. It's like, I'm so sick of these people I'm so sick of these people who want to disagree just for the sake of disagree and want to be disingenuous just for the sake of you trying to get your channel up. You over here trying to get your channel up off of talking down on me, and you don't even know me, bro. I'm like, and I'm very transparent on this channel. So, like what is you saying, bro? Seriously, what are you talking about? Oh, and this is just another detractor that won't come on my lives and talk to me one-on-one, face-to-face. No, you rather just make diss videos and put me in and tag me in your mentions so that way you can attract more viewers. But this is a real thing. This is a real issue in our community, bro. This is a real issue for black people. Cause I'd be willing to bet that 54% of black men that are childless and single, I wouldn't be surprised if a good majority of that 54% are probably guys that dealt with this same kind of divide in a time of growing up, going to school, whatever the case may be, whatever life experiences they had. I would not be surprised if those same guys shared a similar experience to what she's talking about or what I've been through. And I'm so sick of this, bro. I'm so sick. This is the reason why we're looked at the way we are as black people. Like, I'm like, do y'all realize that the culture that we have in America isn't truly our culture as black people? This isn't our true culture. Y'all do understand that, right? Let's continue, man. I'm sorry. I already know I've been talking too long. Let's keep it moving.
And I considered my relationship with black women over the years of my schooling. And I realized that much of that behavior of not liking me because of this invisible social contract. Candace does not act black enough. Candace speaks proper English. Candace, I don't know, likes books and isn't partaking enough in hip hop culture. It still exists, right? I constantly am feeling that I'm still getting bumped in the shoulder in the hallways because I'm just being who I am. This is actually who I am. There's no one that I'm trying to be. This whole, she's acting white, she wants to be white. No. And I think it's a sad commentary that black women feel that way, that black women feel that they have to exist within a prototype to be black. That to me feels like a form of slavery. It feels like you're restricting yourselves. And I think in further consideration of this, that black women are almost the most responsive to culture, right? Constantly trying to do whatever is cool and is acceptable. And that black men are maybe establishing trends, whereas black women are kind of responding all the time to the trends that are being established. And it sort of creates this toxic relationship between black men and between black women. And black women are trying to empower themselves in ways that don't actually make them feel powerful. And one of these ways is they've sort of accepted this narrative that men are trash. And I vehemently disagree with this narrative that men are trash. I vehemently disagree that, and I understand that we have a culture where we kind of put a pedestal on men that don't act well. And we also put women on a pedestal. And when they don't act well, it's why I often talk about Madonna and Cardi B, different races but the same idea. But I do believe that black women are not being true to who they are, right? And I can see this even in the pettiness in the comments when they are if I'm saying something and it makes sense, there's always this really petty response like, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to her because she looks like this, or her hair looks like this, or blah, 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 blah. It's always a commentary on how I look and not actually the words that I'm saying. Again, trying to tell me that I need to be in your image in order for us to be friends. So I had this thought in my head reading this comment for a couple of days. And as I said, it made me very sad because I don't want people to feel that I don't see them or that I don't hear that hurt. I do hear that hurt. I do actually believe that Black women are the most hurt in this society for a lot of reasons. A lot of it stems from government policies in the 60s and a lot of, the single motherhood rate and feeling left alone.
Notice she mentioned those government policies in the 60s. What do we know about the 60s, y'all? That was the start of the feminist movement. That's where birth control started. That's when, from what I know, the beginning of the end. Oh man, so it's interesting that she brought that up. I just wanted to stop and point that out because that was very intriguing that she brought that up. Let's keep it moving.
Constantly being left alone and having that loneliness reinforced by bad incentivizations from the government. And I was having this conversation yesterday with Dr. Ben Carson, who is somebody that I very much admire and somebody that I wrote about in my book. And I was on his podcast and I was talking to him about my Blexit movement and my Blexit charity and the work that we're doing in these inner cities and how much these kids mean to me, that we get to provide them with just opportunities to be something else, right? To say, actually, it's pretty cool if you like to read Harry Potter. It's pretty cool if you like to read books. You don't have to just exist under the weight of what culture is telling you to be today. And in response to me saying that I wanted to sort of bring Black people back together, this is what Dr. Ben Carson said to me. Take a listen.
Well, you're very courageous and very articulate and express that very well. But there's also always been a tendency to try to keep the Black community divided. And that started all the way back in the times of slavery, when particularly the slave owners in places like Mississippi and Alabama were very concerned because there were actually more slaves than there were owners. And they feared an uprising. So they would tell the slaves in the house that they were better than the ones in the yard. The ones in the yard, they were better than the ones in the field, and keep this internal turmoil going all the time. And then after slavery, the light-skinned ones, you're better than the medium-skinned ones, you're better than the dark-skinned ones. And there's always been a way to keep them divided. And of course, now they want to make sure that conservative Blacks and liberal Blacks don't combine forces. So they try to create tension and hatred there as well. And, I think some of the things that you're doing are really helping to alleviate some of that tension, so I appreciate it. But what about Black Lives Matters? What's your diagnosis there?
I first want to respond to what you just said because it was the exact words I needed to hear this week. I've spent this entire week defending Kyrie Irving and defending my friendship with Ye, and there's been this media peer pressure for me to dump Kanye West because I'm better than him and he's made a mistake, and this media peer pressure for Black Americans to speak out and to say something wrong about Kyrie Irving. And I have felt over the last month very spiritually conflicted because there are so many people telling me that this is what I should do, right? These people are bad. But then there's a part of me that's going, no, this has gone on for too long. You keep telling Black people not to support each other, right? I want to create an ecosystem where we can support Black people when they're wrong and we can support Black people when they're right, and that we can just support one another full stop. And that is actually how I feel. And to hear him put it to learned behavior from slavery just hit me in my soul, right? The idea that you can't like Candace Owens. You're not supposed to like Candace Owens. There's this concept of they always call me on Instagram, actually, a lot of Black women, oh, she's a house Negro. Who taught you that? Why are you saying that? Do you actually believe that I think that I'm better than you, right? Why do we do this? Because we've learned this behavior, and just like Dr. Ben Carson says, there is somebody that knows that all of us coming together, there is a society that understands that we would be too powerful if we all came together. And I don't want to contribute in that slave economy anymore. I do not feel, and if you need to hear it, that in any way I am better than you. I am not better than you because I like politics and I like to pay attention to politics. And you maybe like to pay attention to culture and you know more about culture. That doesn't make you better than me because you might be able to name more of the top hip hop songs. We're different people. We need to accept that we are different people and figure out how we can come together despite being perfect people, being different people. I don't want to have to be someone that I am not to be your friend. And I hope that what is happening now, and I do feel it, that we are beginning to have these conversations and we are beginning to understand that we would be way more powerful as allies. And I hope that what you take from my commentary, because there was a lot of it, and I know that the media intentionally portrays it as though I'm always just talking back about Black Americans, that could not be further from the truth. What I have been trying to communicate to Black America and to all of America is that we can do better than what we're doing.
All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and stop it here. She is absolutely correct. This is one of the frustrations that I share with her so much, and sometimes it's hard to express. It's hard to express it, especially when I tell people that I agree with Candace Owens on this, because Candace Owens is such a controversial figure because, well, she's a conservative, and Black conservative at that. I mean, how rare is that nowadays? You know what I mean? So this is one of the biggest gripes I've always had about Black culture, about not being accepted unless you quote unquote hood, thug type. How women seem to only view those type of Black men as masculine versus a man as well spoken, educated, on, you know, about his business, clean cut, whatever the case may be. Those guys are viewed as not Black enough. But then when those guys make something of themselves and they're not accepted by their own race of women because they're not Black enough, y'all want to get upset when they date women out of their other races or they get a passport and leave. That's why I wanted to react to this, because I'm so sick of Black people, whether it be male or female, that want to sit over here and put their head in the damn sand and act like this problem doesn't exist in our culture. And if y'all want to act like it doesn't exist in our culture, then explain to me why the hell all these other races ain't dealing with the same problem like we are. Oh, you know what? I'll take that back. They are, but not nearly as bad as us. You don't see white people over here saying, "Oh, he ain't white enough. He ain't white enough because he doesn't know the lyrics to the Garth Brooks song." Oh, you see, y'all get where I'm trying to go with this. So nah, I don't want to hear that BS excuse. And no, I don't want to hear, nah. And I don't want to hear some BS excuse just because you don't like Candace Owens. And once again, that's the other issue with Black people. Pay attention to the message, not the messenger. Because the same applies to me, because I know there's some people out there that don't like me since my channel grew. I could really care less. But as long as you take in the message, you know what I mean? Take what you can use from it and spit out whatever you don't need from it and keep it moving. Because I apply the same thing. I apply the same principles to myself. And I highly suggest y'all do the same. And be yourself. And embrace being yourself. Don't be somebody else. Don't be like what somebody else wants you to be just so you can be cool with them. Because I can tell you, speaking from experience, those are the kind of people that are probably not going to be in your life for the long haul anyway. My best friend that's in town from New Orleans, me and him been friends since I was 5. And you want to know why? Because I never had to act like anybody else to be friends with him. And vice versa. And that's why you keep your circle small, man. As y'all can see, this is why I wanted this to be a live reaction, man. I had so much to unpack and speak on this, because this is a big problem in the Black community, man. So if you lasted this long, I appreciate you watching, man. This was very important to me to go over, man. All right. If you're new to the platform, please subscribe. OGs, I appreciate the love and support. Make sure y'all hitting the bell notification. That way y'all know what I'm uploading. And hit the like button, because it helps with the algorithm. It helps me reach a broader audience. And please, please in the comments, let me know what y'all think about this, all right? Until the next video, y'all, deuces.